We are starting today's Daf Yomi, which is Bava Basra Daf Kufiyah. Today's Daf Yomi is dedicated for Shmir for the Chayolim. That's all for the Shvuyim and Yeshua for Am Yisrael on this eighth Sarah. Gemara is discussing, we're in the middle of a discussion of inheritance, and Gemara had asked the question, why is it that we're going to say that the man's family is called mishpacha, but not the female's family, and that's why we know the word sha'ir refers to the father, not the mother. Gemara says we learned it out from the story of Pesach Micha, where it says that the Levite in that case was a Levite mishpachas Yehuda, and there it doesn't really mean he was from the family of Judah. It means that he had some of the qualities. So therefore, even though there was a contradiction that a woman was from mishpachas Yehuda, we still say that the mishpacha goes to the male side and not the female side. Thank you, Bill. So the Gemara, Mama, here's a bagel for you.
Oh,
thank you, Bill. Bill's the one who brought it. Yeah, he takes good care of you. Okay, so therefore, Gemara says, we're on the top of Kuf Yud Amud Aleph. It says, Amarava, no seisha tzarach sheyivdok pacha. Before you marry a woman, check out her brothers. And because the most likelihood is that the children are going to turn out to be like her brothers. So that's what the Gemara says. And what's the source for this idea? And it says, yeah, 4 lines from the top. I know seisha tzarach sheyivdok pacha. It states, Vayikach Aaron es Elisheva bas Aminadav achos Nachshon. Aaron took as his wife Elisheva, the daughter of Aminadav, who happened to be the sister of Nachshon. We already know that she was the sister of Nachshon because it says that she was the daughter of Aminadav, and Aminadav himself, we know from Divrei Hayamim that he had children Elisheva and Nachshon. So from the fact that it says she was the daughter of Aminadav, we know she was the sister of Nachshon. Before you marry a woman, check out her brother. And because the most likelihood is that the brother is going to be, your children are going to resemble the brother. Mikan, Tana, and the Gemara indeed taught. Would you like something, Omama? Okay. So we learn from here, Tana, that Rov Banim Domin Lachayim. We learn from here that most children are similar to the brothers of the mother. The Gemara says, let's go back to the story of Pesach Micha. Again, what happened was that there was a man who showed up, and the Talmud, the text of the Tanakh says in Judges 7:18, his name was Yonasan ben Gershom ben Menashe, but the Nun of Menashe is suspended, so the Talmud said he was really the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he served as a priest to idolatry. So it says Vayasuru, and then there were 5 people who were sent up from the tribe of Dan to look for this, to investigate a place for them to live, and they saw this Levite serving as a priest, Vayosuru, and they said, Mie viacha halom, who brought you here? What are you doing with this, and what are you doing here? So they recognized him. They saw he was a descendant of Moses, grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. What are you doing here if you're grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu? Amrlo, they were saying to him, Lami Moshe Ka'asis, we know you are. You're from Moshe Rabbeinu. What are you doing here, serving as a priest to idolatry? And it says, and the Gemara is using the words. It says by Moshe Rabbeinu Dechsiv Bey Al Tikreav Halom. It says, don't come close by Moshe by the bush. Lami Moshe Ka'asis Dechsiv Bey Mazeh Biyadecha. Aren't you similar to Moshe? It says, what is this in your hand about the staff? And then also it says, aren't you from Moshe? About it says, you stay with me and tell everybody else to stay back from Mount Sinai. So we see, and you're going to be a Tasik going to Avodah Zarah. You're going to become a coin to idolatry. And so the Levites said back to them, Yonatan said back to them, he said, I have a tradition from my grandfather. A person should always hire himself out to Avodah Zarah before he needs to go begging for money. And so therefore, that's the reasoning why I'm not, that's why I'm doing this job, because my grandfather told me, I need money, and before you're going to do collect money from charity, go work for avodah zarah. So the Gemara says, well, what was his mistake? Who savar avodah zarah mamash? He thought actually avodah zarah, which is idolatry. Below how avodah zarah means what it literally means. Avodah shazaro. Moshe was telling him, do work that's foreign to you, as it states. Kedamle Rav Kahana, Kedamle Rav Kahana, Netoshne velasa b'shuk v'shkol agra avotema gava rabba. You're better off first taking a carcass and flaying it in the marketplace and not saying the notion of lots of a shukal and taking money for it, and don't say, oh, I'm such a great man. And it's beneath me to do this.
Is this statement of Moshe recorded anywhere else?
I think this is the only place. There's no cross reference. What? No, the Gemara doesn't assume he made it up because the Gemara assumes that he misunderstood it. The Gemara takes him at his word. The Gemara takes him at his word that that's what he said. Kivan Shara David, once David saw Mamon Chavavalav Bioter, once David saw that this Yonasan was very careful with money, he was very tight with the money. Mino all Toros. He says, oh, you're going to put you in charge of my budget because you're tight with the money, as it says, Vishavuel ben Gershom ben Menashe. It says, Vishavuel, the son of Gershom, the son of Menashe. Nagida all Toros. He put him in charge of the king's treasury. Shavuel Shemo was his name really Shavuel, Valo Yonasan Shemo. His name was Yonasan. That he repented. He repented with all his heart. So he put him in charge of the treasury. Speaking of the treasury, we know that Abarbanel was in charge of the king's treasury in Spain. And today they just published a study that Columbus, they did DNA evidence on Columbus's offspring, and they proved through DNA evidence that Columbus's son has the same DNA as the Jews. So Columbus was genetically a Jew. No, it's from the Y chromosome. They did it through the mail. He's canceled. Columbus is canceled, but so what? That's what it is. I mean, it's what it is. You can't say good or not. This is what it is. He's genetically a Jew. All it means is he was genetically a Jew. Most likely, he was a converso who had left, and he was hiding his true identity. So the Talmud also tells us in Sanhedrin that lists those people who don't get a share in the world to come. So why was this Micha, Pasal Micha, the idol of Micha, why was he not listed amongst those who don't have a share in the world to come? He brought all these people to idolatry. The Gemara answers, even though he brought people to idolatry, he gave them a lot of charity. He gave them food, and that was his merits, and that's why he still has a share in the world to come. You see the power of tzedakah. Even if the person is doing something wrong, if he's feeding people, he has certain merits. And now we go on to the next piece. It said in the Mishnah that the children inherit their father and they can bequeath to their father. We know, and how do we know that the children inherit their father? What's the source that the son comes before the father, before the daughter is to inherit? Meaning, it's not the question, how do we know the son inherits? How do we know a son inherits before a sister? That is, if there's a son, the sister does not inherit. So Gemara says, because it says in the pasuk, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, Ishkiyamos, a man will die, and he will not have a son. Then you take the inheritance and give it to his daughter, which implies a Yeshlo Ben. But if he would have a son, Ben Kodem, that the son would, if he has a son, the son comes before the daughter. But if there's no son, then it goes to the daughter. So the Gemara says, really? Maybe it means Ika Ben Liros Ben, Ika Bas Tiros Bas. Maybe all that pasuk means is if there's a son, the son inherits. If there's a daughter, the daughter inherits. And Ika Ben Liros Ben, Ika Bas Tiros Bas, Ika Ben Ubas. But maybe it means if there's a son and a daughter, Lo Hai Liros, Lo Hai Liros, then neither one will inherit. You got a question, Bill? Maybe it means that if there's a son and a daughter, neither one inherits. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, Elaman Liros, who's going to inherit then? We're on top of 110b. If you're saying there's no son or no daughter, who's going to inherit? So the Gemara answers, Amar. So he says, I'll tell you who's going to inherit. The Gemara asks, Atu bar kasha, Demasaliros, you mean the mayor of the city is going to inherit? If there's no son or daughter, the government gets to inherit? I mean, if there's a son and a daughter, the son inherits? No, that's not the case. If there's Gemara says maybe we had tried to bring a proof that it says in the pasuk if there's no son, the daughter inherits. This proves that the son comes before the daughter to inherit. The Gemara says maybe all it means is if there's a son, the son inherits. If there's a daughter, the daughter inherits. But if there's a son and a daughter, maybe neither one inherits. The Gemara says, well, then who's going to inherit? The mayor of the town? No, that doesn't make sense. That if there's a son and a daughter, the mayor of the town inherits. So the Gemara says, okay. This is what I mean to say. Ika ben bas or is koi, below is koi. No, maybe it just means if there's a son and a daughter, neither one inherits the whole thing, that they split it. Ella so maybe they just share it. So how do we know that if in the case where there's a daughter and a son, the son inherits and not the daughter? So the Gemara says, Amay Abaye, you had a question, Bill? So Abaye says, So Abai says to Rabba, according to your position that both of them are equal in the inheritance, and the words Vavartem es nachasol is coming to teach us that even when there's no son, that even when there's no son, the daughter inherits. Would you need a pasuk to teach us where there's only one son? That he inherits all of his assets. Of course, if there's a son and a daughter, we're going to say we don't need it to say it. So Abai says it's a Karl Hashmin and Hechadolesli Elachad Bra or son of Lakun Nechsei. Would we need a verse to tell us this? We'll read the Rashbam. Isa da Amar Achmana de Kechada Yerasun. If it is the case that the pasuk is telling us that they inherit as one, nimtza she'ein haben royal Yerusha Yosef ben Abbas, that means the son doesn't have any more of a claim to inherit more than the daughter. And also the daughter is like two sons. We need a pasuk to teach us that would we need a pasuk to teach us that where there's only one son, he inherits all of it? Why would the pasuk say if there's no son, it goes to his daughter? It's obvious. Let the pasuk be quiet. And this is what it should say: Ishki amus, that if a man dies, and he has no offspring, then a man will die, he has no offspring, he'll give it to his brother. And then we'll know them ben that if there's no sons, the daughter inherits everything because they're both equivalent there. So therefore, from the fact that it says like this, it's coming to teach us that the son comes before the daughter. And it's teaching us the Afagav Deina Bas Yeresh B'Makom Sheyesh Ben. Even though the daughter doesn't inherit and there's a son, then we know that if there's no son, the daughter inherits. So that's what Abaye says. So Gemara says, maybe it's teaching us something else. Maybe it's teaching us the Bas Nami Bas Yerusha. Maybe the pasuk is teaching us that the daughter itself is capable of inheriting. Because it says Vavartem, it's teaching us the daughter itself is capable of inheriting. No, we know that the daughter is capable of inheriting from a different verse, because it says, it says in the pasuk in Bamidbar Lamed Vav pasuk Ches, it says that that she's supposed to marry from her within her tribe. So we already know that her daughter is capable of inheriting. So the Gemara is now going to bring other possible reasons, proofs for the fact that if there's a son and a daughter, this son gets the inheritance and not the daughter. It says it from the following verse. It says by the daughters of Tzlafat that they want to claim their inheritance from Moshe Rabbeinu. They said, "Lama yigara Shem Avinu mitoch mishpachto ki ein lo ben." Why should our father's name be diminished from the family because he has no son? Meaning to say, time and ein lo ben, because he has no son. That's why there's not going to be inheritance. And therefore it goes to the daughters. Ben, but Ben Kodim. But if there be a son, the son comes first and not the daughters. Yeah.
That argument, just in light of our previous discussion, seems to be problematic because their argument is they should stay in the father's family, therefore give it to the daughters. The daughters can marry out. Oh, then that's why they said they had to marry all the daughters, right?
Within the first, that's what the Pasuk says. Within with the first family. And maybe, yeah. So maybe that's true that if there's a son, the daughters don't inherit. Maybe the daughters of Tzlafchad were saying that. But Nisna Torah, Nischat Shalacha. But maybe once the Torah was given and we made this new law about the daughters of Tzlafchad can inherit, then maybe there's a new halacha and that the sons and daughters both share the inheritance. So we go back to the other reasoning that it says Ishki Amusu Ben Einlo. That that's the source for the idea that where there's a son and a daughter, only the son inherits. So we reject Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Ravina Amar Me'acha. Ravina gives us a third possibility. It says at the end of the passage of the inheritance, in the Satemes Nachaso Shero Akarov they love. You give the inheritance to the closest relatives. So we see from here, Akarov Kodem, whoever is closer will inherit. And so therefore, and they inherit everything. And so therefore, since the son is closer to the father over the daughter, as Gemara is going to explain, they are the ones who inherit and not the daughter. Gemara says, wait 1 second. My korva de ben bas. Why is the son closer? Sheben kam tachas aviv liyado ste'achuz. Well, this reminds us. I'll tell you why. Because the son could take his place for yiyud, which we said is the idea of if the father bought an ama every yard, then the son can betroth her without giving her extra betrothal money. He could take the place of the father, and a ste'achuza, he could redeem his father's inherited field. So the Gemara says, but Yada Baslav Bas Yadi. Well, how can you bring a proof that the son is closer relative to the father than the daughter because of Yiyud? Well, the daughter can't do Yiyud. She can't marry. She can't marry the Amevriya. It's a man. Only a man can marry a woman, not a woman. So the Gemara says, and Steachuza Nami, and also with respect to Steachuza, she's not going to. She shouldn't be. The son shouldn't be considered closer than the daughter because even though. Because a daughter can also redeem the field of her father. Because the only reason why a son comes first is because the only reason why Steachuza works by a son over and not the brother is because, as we said in the previous staff, is because of this question about Yibum. And since this question is also, there's no Yibum in a place of a daughter, therefore we're not going to say that the Steachuza proves that the son comes first. So the Gemara says, so it's like we said initially, the initial reason was that pasuk which states that when the man dies, each Musa Ben and Lo goes to the daughter. Vibaya same our fourth possibility, Me'achav. It's Nachal Chem Osam of Nechem Achrechem. You shall bequeath the land to your children after you. So it says live nechem, but not lazarechem. B'nechem v'b'notechem. Your sons and not your daughters. This is a very tricky answer because the Gemara is going to bring a proof where it says b'nechem refers to your daughters. What about the fact that it says with respect to a mezuzah, we say every day in the Shema, that you should keep the laws of the Torah, put a mezuzah up so that you'll have the days will increase of your children and your you mean say only your sons will be increased, but not your daughters? So the Gemara says, as it relates to a blessing, and it's said to all of Israel, then obviously it's going to include the daughters as well, even though it doesn't say Zarechem. However, with respect to inheritance, if the pasuk was coming to include the daughters, it should have said Zarachem. So the Gemara says, and your paternal brothers, meaning say if you share the same father, you can inherit from them and bequeath to them. And how do we know that only your paternal brothers are people you can inherit from and bequeath to them, but not your maternal brothers. Amar Asya, Achva, Achva mibnei Yaakov. This is derived from the children of Yaakov, as it states, just like it says over there, from the father and not from the mother. So just like it says over there by the children of Yaakov, the pasuk is referring to the father. And when he says, the Torah says, where it says, when Joseph's brothers come in, they said, we are 12 brothers. And there it's referring to paternal brothers because they're not maternal brothers because they don't all have the same mother. So too we say that brothers means paternal and not maternal. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, why do we need this? Doesn't it say from its family and inherit her? And in fact, it says mishpachas av kriya mishpacha mishpachas emein kriya mishpacha. Why do we even need this gzera shava? We have a verse that says that if they're from your family, you'll inherit her. But that's only your father's family was how the land was divided. Why do we need this? It's true, you don't need it to tell us about inheritance. Rabba's law was taught about the laws of Yibum, and they only apply. Only a brother from the father is able to do the Yibum and not the maternal brothers. Okay, so that's today's Daf Yomi. God will pick this up tonight at 7:20, and tomorrow we'll continue with the Daf as well. A big shkoyach to everybody.